As a child, I remember dropping coins in the offering plate and fighting with my siblings over who got to put our parents' tithe check in the offering. I'll admit I unfolded the check a few times to see how much money my parents were giving. I thought my parents were rich if they could afford to give that much money to church every month. I know now my parents weren't rich, at least by the world's standards, but they were and continue to be richly blessed because they're obedient to Christ in all aspects of their lives, including tithing. My parents raised 4 kids on one income, a hog farmer's income at that. As a lot of you know, commodity markets go in cycles. Some years you come out in the black, and some years you bleed red. During those months and years that were tough, my parents continued to tithe, and they always tithed at the first of the month without knowing what the rest of the days would hold. If it was a good month and their initial tithe didn't equal 10% of their gross income, they'd tithe the second time. If it was a tough month, they knew they had faithfully gave as God instructs us to from our first fruits. I'm confident God rewarded their stewardship by blessing them with the financial means to put 4 kids through college debt-free. That's 16 years of college, and 4 of those years they had 2 kids in college. I mentioned my parents' example because you'd think it would be easy for me to continue to tithe when Carson and I got married and started our careers. Well, that wasn't the case. As newlyweds, we were grateful to find a church home at Richland Baptist Church. We were somewhat faithful in our Sunday school and Sunday worship attendance, but that was it. I remember tithing a few times, but it was only when we had extra money to spare that month. 3 years into our marriage, Satan got a stronghold on both of us, and a series of poor choices almost ended our marriage. God made it clear he could and would restore our marriage if we surrendered all aspects of our lives to him, with our finances and tithing at the top of the list. You might be thinking, there's no way tithing can have anything to do with mending a marriage. Guess what? It does. Turning our finances over to God and tithing as he instructs us was one of the most tangible ways to immediately place our trust in him. God started working a miracle from the inside out on both of us. Our relationship with Christ became our priority, not our selfish desires. And tithing became a way to give back to Christ because he gives so much to us. During the restoration process, God opened the door for Carson to work as a salesman at Modern Farm in a commission-based job. Just as we were getting comfortable with trusting God with our finances, he makes it clear Carson should take a job that might result in very little income some months. Almost 10 years later, God has been faithful and has provided for our family each and every month. God desires for his children to have an abundant life. In John 10:10, Christ says, "A thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it in abundance." That is exactly what Satan was doing in my life and my marriage. He was stealing, killing, and destroying. While the meaning of abundance is subjective, in Christ it means there are no limits to his blessings, whether they be financial, spiritual, physical. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather have the assurance of an abundance life in Christ than riches that are temporary here on earth. Tithing is part of a whole life in Christ. Being obedient in his leading will result in an abundance that surpasses any form of worldly abundance that you and I can fathom.